My fiancée and her family publicly humiliated me at dinner, so I ended the engagement silently and left them with nothing but regret. I'm a 30-year-old guy, and for years, I thought I had found my forever person. I didn't come from money. Everything I have, I built from scratch. My parents were blue-collar, salt of the earth, people always working, always scraping. I started mowing lawns at 13 and never stopped hustling. By 26, I had a small but thriving home renovation business. A used truck that ran like a dream, enough saved up for a starter home. That's when I met Claire. She was polished, graceful in that way. People are when they've never had to budget for groceries. Her family was old money, upper middle class with ties to golf clubs and wine tastings and summer homes with names like the Pines. But Claire said she loved my ambition. She loved how I worked with my hands, how I fixed things instead of throwing them away. She said I grounded her. At first I believed her. Her family, on the other hand, was a different story. Our first meeting was a quiet war behind tight smiles. Her mother made comments like, "It's admirable how far he's come." Her dad just nodded a lot and talked about real estate stocks. They weren't cruel, just cold. Like they were trying to figure out what she saw in me. Claire told me not to overthink it. "They're just traditional," she said. "Give them time." So I did. I gave them time, effort, respect. I bit my tongue through awkward family brunches and questions like, "Do you rent or own?" I kept believing Claire's words over their actions. By year 3, we were engaged. I had spent months designing the ring myself, mine of a kind, just like her. And she said yes, with tears in her eyes. We were planning a wedding, and Claire promised. Her family was finally warming up to me, but I should have paid closer attention to how cold the room still felt. Looking back, the signs were all there. I just didn't want to see them. After we got engaged, Claire started making small comments that felt off. Once, when we were meeting her friends for dinner, she asked if I could tone down my work talk. "You get so passionate about renovations," she said with a laugh. "They're not really blue-collar people." I laughed it off, but something about her tone stuck with me. Her family never missed a chance to remind me where I stood. Her mother complimented my determination, like I was some scholarship kid dating her daughter out of luck. Her brother Evan joked once that I'd clean up well for a contractor. They all laughed, except me. Claire would roll her eyes afterward. "They're teasing," she said. "They do that with everyone." She'd grab my hand and kiss it like that and made it okay. But slowly, started noticing how she'd change details about me when she talked to them. She'd say I was a project manager instead of a business owner, that my parents retired early instead of saying my dad drove trucks until his back gave out. Each time, I'd feel that quiet sting in my chest, like she was ashamed of who I really was. Still, I kept convincing myself she was just trying to fit me into her world. I told myself it wasn't malicious, just awkwardness. Then one night, she came home with a big smile and said, "My parents want to host a dinner. A formal one. Just family. They want to finally celebrate us." She said it like it was a breakthrough, like they were finally accepting me. I wanted to believe that. I needed to believe that, so I said yes. Even though deep down, something told me this dinner wasn't going to be a celebration at all. The dinner was set for a Saturday evening at her parents' home, a massive colonial-style place nestled in one of those neighborhoods where every lawn looks like it's been vacuumed. Claire said it would be just a small gathering, maybe a dozen people. I spent the week preparing like it was a job interview. I got my nicest blazer dry cleaned, trimmed my beard, even practiced answers to those polite G questions her dad liked to throw around. I picked out a bottle of aged bourbon for her father, $120, which wasn't cheap, and had a bouquet delivered for her mom that morning. Claire seemed excited, but in this rehearsed way. She kept reminding me not to bring up work too much, not to mention my latest kitchen remodel client, not to talk politics. "Just keep it light," she said, smoothing the lapel of my coat before we walked in. "Let them see how polished you are." The moment we stepped through the front door, I knew I didn't belong there. Everyone else was already there, dressed to the nines, sipping wine with pinkies slightly raised. The laughter stopped when we entered, not abruptly, but in that awkward, barely masked way. Claire's mother air-kissed her cheek, then gave me a once-over like she was inspecting a suit on clearance. Her father barely nodded. We moved into the dining room long mahogany table. Gold-rimmed plates and a giant chandelier overhead like a spotlight. I sat next to Claire, hands folded, trying to blend in, but the way they looked at MIT wasn't curiosity. It was calculation. Claire leaned in and whispered, "Just smile and follow my lead, okay?" Her voice was tight, controlled, like she was bracing for something. And suddenly, so was I, because this didn't feel like a family dinner. It felt like an ambush dressed in fine linen and crystal glassware. Dinner started with a toast to Claire's father stood up, glass in hand, smiling the way a wolf might if it wore cufflinks. "To family," he said, "and to making smart choices for the future." A few polite chuckles. Then he added, "especially choices that don't come back to haunt us financially." Everyone laughed. Except me. Claire touched my knee under the table like it was a joke. I should just let go. I forced a smile. The first course was served. Conversation flowed about investment portfolios, ski resorts, European wine tastings. I sat there, chewing quietly, nodding when appropriate. Then her uncle chimed in. "So, Claire tells us, you're in. Construction. Home renovation," I corrected politely. "I run a small business. We do everything from kitchens to full-scale remodels." He raised an eyebrow. "So, you work with your hands?" "Yeah," I said. "I take a lot of pride in what I do." He smirked. "Nothing wrong with a little dirt under the nails. As long as you wash up before dinner." More laughter then. Claire jumped in. "Oh, come on, Uncle Ted. He's cleaned up fine, right?" She turned to me, smiling like we were in on the joke together. "I mean, he doesn't exactly come from linen napkin dinners." My stomach dropped. Someone muttered, "You can take the man out of the trailer." Claire's mom giggled into her wine. I sat frozen. The room was spinning, and no one seemed to notice or care. My cheeks were burning. Claire didn't defend me. She didn't shut them down. She just laughed with them. At that moment, I wasn't her fiancé. I was the punchline. And in that silence between laughter and the next course, I realized this wasn't accidental. This was coordinated. They hadn't invited me to celebrate. They invited me to watch me squirm. I don't remember what the next dish was. I just stared at my plate, letting the voices blur into white noise. Claire leaned in again and whispered, "Don't make a scene. They're just teasing." I looked at Horelli, looked at her hand. There was no concern in her eyes. No apology, just discomfort, embarrassment, like I was the one ruining the evening by not playing along. That's when it clicked. She didn't bring me here to be accepted. She brought me here to be tested and laughed at. I pushed my chair back, slow and steady. The legs scraped against the hardwood, drawing everyone's attention. I stood, folded my napkin, and placed it gently on the table. "Thank you for dinner," I said quietly. It was illuminating. Claire's mom blinked, confused. Her father narrowed his eyes. Claire looked up at me, alarmed. "What are you doing?" She hissed. I reached into my jacket pocket, pulled out the ring box I had gotten resized just 2 weeks earlier. I set it down beside her plate. "You can keep that," I said, voice calm, barely above a whisper. "I won't be needing it." Her hand shot out. Can we talk about this outside?" I didn't respond. I walked out past the coat rack, past the foyer filled with overpriced art, past the heavy oak door. I stepped into the night air, cold and sharp against my skin. For the first time in weeks, I felt clear. I didn't check my phone. I didn't look back. By the time I got home, I had already started canceling everything: the florist, the venue, the photographer. I blocked her number, deleted our shared wedding folder. Claire had made her choice, and now I was making mine. Claire showed up at my apartment the next morning. No warning, a call. Just pounding on the door like a cop with a warrant, I opened it a crack. She was standing there in a designer coat, hair still perfect, but her eyes were wild. "You just left?" she snapped. "What the hell was that?" I didn't say anything. I just stepped aside and let her walk in. She marched to the middle of the living room like she still had some kind of authority in my space. "It was a joke," she said, arms flailing. "They were teasing. You made it into something bigger than it was." I stared at her, waiting to see if she'd say what I needed to hear. An apology? Accountability? Something real? But all she gave me was, "Do you know how bad this makes me look?" That's when I realized she wasn't sorry I was hurt. She was sorry she couldn't control the fallout. "They humiliated me," I said quietly. "And you joined them." She scoffed. "Oh, come on. You're being dramatic." I handed her a folder printed emails and receipts. Everything's canceled. The venue, the caterer, all of it. The deposits were in my name. She flipped through it, color draining from her face. "You're actually serious?" I nodded. Claire's voice dropped to a whisper. "Do you know what people are going to say?" "Let them talk," I said. "At least I know I won't be marrying someone who lets me drown in a room full of sharks." She stared at me like I was a stranger. Then she grabbed her bag and walked out, slamming the door behind her. I stood there in the silence that followed, heart pounding not from regret, but from relief. A few days passed in silence. Claire didn't reach out again, and I didn't chase her. But the universe has a way of revealing things when you least expect it. I got a message from Erin, one of Claire's old college friends I'd met at a couple of parties. She wasn't close with Claire anymore, but we'd always gotten along. Her message was short. "Hey, I think you deserve to see this. I'm sorry." Attached were screenshots. Dozens of them. Claire had a private group chat with some of her old high school and college friends. The kind where people feel safe saying the things they'd never say out loud. And in that chat, I was the punchline. Over and over again, she made fun of the way I dressed, called my truck tragically blue-collar, said the ring I gave her was sweet but painfully basic. One message from a few months ago hit me like a punch. "He's good for now. Dad says I can always trade up once I've got the wedding pics." My stomach twisted. This wasn't about teasing anymore. It wasn't about one cruel dinner. This was about how she'd always seen me as a stepping stone. A project she thought she could polish up and parade in front of her friends. I spent the rest of the night scrolling through every message, every laughing emoji at my expense, every screenshot of our texts she'd shared to mock me. It wasn't just betrayal. It was premeditated disrespect. And somehow, I wasn't even angry. I was numb, because the love I thought we had, it never existed. It was just another thing she fabricated for show, and I had been the only one who thought it was real. I didn't respond to Erin's message. I didn't tell anyone what I saw. I just saved the screenshots and tucked them into a private folder. Claire had already shown me who she was. I didn't need a second performance. But the silence I gave her, it echoed louder than any fight could. A week passed. Then, too, I started getting messages from mutual friends, people who were shocked the wedding was off. At first, the questions were gentle. "Just a misunderstanding? You guys seemed so solid." I kept my answers vague. It just wasn't right. The silence unsettled Claire more than I expected. I got a text from a blocked number. Just one line. "We need to talk, please." I didn't reply. Then the whispers started. Erin wasn't the only one who saw those group chat messages. Someone in that circle, maybe more than one, leaked them. I wasn't the one who told the world. Claire's own people did. Her image started to unravel. Her classy, poised persona couldn't survive what people saw in those texts. Especially the part where she laughed about marrying down for now, leveling up later. Her own cousin messaged me on Instagram. "Dude, I'm sorry. We all knew they were kind of elitist, but that dinner was brutal." I wish I'd said something. Even her family wasn't shielded. People started commenting. Friends, extended relatives, business acquaintances. They weren't laughing anymore. And the best part? I still hadn't said a word. I hadn't aired her out. I hadn't posted screenshots. I didn't need to. Sometimes silence isn't weakness. Sometimes it's gasoline. And Claire. She was starting to feel the fire. It was a Thursday evening when she finally showed up again, this time at my office. I had just finished wrapping up a consultation when the receptionist buzzed me. "There's a Claire here. Says it's personal." I almost told her to send her away. But curiosity got the better of me. She looked different, less polished, makeup streaked, eyes red. She was holding something in her hand. "I thought it might be the ring. I just want to talk," she said, voice trembling. I led her into the conference room and shut the door. She sat down like her body weighed twice as much as it used to. "I messed up," she whispered. "I know I did." I said nothing. I wanted her to fill the silence. I got caught up in the pressure. My parents, their expectations. I didn't mean to laugh at you. I was just scared. I didn't know how to stand up to them. Still, I said nothing. She reached into her purse and pulled out a folder ironically. The same kind I had handed her weeks ago when I canceled the wedding. This one was filled with notes she'd written. Apologies. Confessions. "Please. I love you," she said. "And I know I didn't show it right, but we can fix this. I'll cut them off. I'll leave it all behind if it means getting you back." I pulled out my phone and opened the folder I had saved the screenshots from her group chat. I slid the phone across the table. She stared at the screen. Her eyes moved from line to line, her face draining of color. Then she looked up at me, voice hollow. "You saw all of it?" I nodded once. She didn't cry this time. She didn't scream. She just whispered, "You're never going to forgive me, are you?" And I said without anger, "No, I'm not." That was the last time I saw her, long before Claire's family ever hosted that dinner. I had been quietly working on a side project. Something personal. Something meaningful. There was this small, upscale bistro in the historic part of town, warm lighting, rustic wood interiors, exposed brick walls. I used to walk past it every day thinking, if I ever make it big, I want something like that. Turns out Claire's family had tried to buy it once. The deal fell through. They didn't meet the financing terms, or maybe the owners just didn't like them. Either way, the place stayed on the market. After the engagement ended, I reached out. Made an offer clean, respectful, all cash from my business savings, and a silent partner who believed in the vision. Within weeks, I was the proud owner of what would become August Roa Modern Bistro, with no dress code, no pretentious wine list, just good food and real people. I didn't announce anything publicly, no grand opening on social media. I kept it low-key, invited close friends, a few mutuals from Claire's circle who had quietly supported me, and then one night, while doing a final walkthrough before soft launch, I saw them, Claire's parents, standing outside the glass, staring at the new signage. Her father squinted at the interior, probably confused. Claire's mother tilted her head, trying to place the name. They didn't recognize me at first. I was inside, dressed down, sleeves rolled, clipboard in hand. When they did, her mother's lips parted slightly like she wanted to say something. But I just gave a polite nod and turned back to my staff. No smug smile. No words. Just calm, collected silence. They watched me walk away into the restaurant they failed to buy, run by the man they once mocked at their table. Didn't need to slam the door behind. Me already owned the building. Word travels. Fast in our town, especially. When it comes with wine pairings, and whispered, "Scandal?" Within a few weeks, August Row became the place people wanted to be. Not because of flashy marketing, but because it felt like something real, comfortable, elevated, but not elitist. The kind of place where someone in work boots could sit next to someone in a tailored suit and both would get treated the same. I never once mentioned Claire. Never said a word about the dinner, the engagement, the screenshots. I didn't need to. Other people did it for me. Her reputation unraveled slowly, first in circles she thought were loyal, then in the wider community. People stopped inviting her to things. Former friends stopped liking her posts. Someone at her old PR job told a mutual that her public image was becoming difficult to manage. I heard she tried dating again, but it didn't go far. Turns out, it's hard to build something when you've already burned your foundation. I didn't take pleasure in her suffering. That's the thing. I didn't want her to crash. I just didn't want to be the one she stood on to keep herself above water occasionally. I'd hear from someone in her circle, an apology here, a comment there. We should have said something sooner. I didn't realize how bad it was. But that's the thing about silence. It protects the guilty until it doesn't. And Claire. She was surrounded by it now, isolated, diminished. Her family stopped showing their faces at the bistro. Her father once passed me on the sidewalk, and we locked eyes. He looked away first. That was all the closure I needed, not revenge. Not drama. Just the slow, steady ache of reality catching up to the people who thought they were untouchable. It had been nearly a year since I walked out of that dinner. Since I left behind the version of myself that begged for approval from people who saw me as disposable, I was locking up. August Rowe late one evening after a private event when I saw her. Claire. She was standing just outside, wrapped in a coat too thin for the weather, arms crossed, like she wasn't sure whether to stay or turn around. Her eyes looked tired, like someone who hadn't slept right in months. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then she stepped forward. I just wanted to say, "I'm sorry, I didn't say anything." She swallowed hard, voice shaky. "You didn't deserve any of it. I've thought about that night 1,000 times. What I said? What I didn't say? How I let them treat you." I looked at her and felt nothing. No anger, no pain. Just distance. I was so obsessed with how things looked, she continued. The perfect image. The right match. And I ruined something real for people who never truly respected me either. She glanced up, eyes wet. "You probably hate me." I shook my head. "No, I don't." That seemed to hit her harder than if I'd screamed. "I hope you've grown since then," I said quietly. "I really do." She nodded, biting her lip, then turned and walked off into the night without another word. I stood there for a minute, watching her disappear down the street. Then I turned back, locked the door, flipped off the lights. That chapter was done. Not because she apologized, but because I'd stopped needing one. Peace isn't loud. It doesn't come with fireworks or applause. It's the quiet knowledge that I didn't just walk away from a broken engagement. I walked into the life I deserved.